Matrix Encryption, Crypto Ethics and the Decentralization Trend, September 3rd, 2025. Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about is modern internet infrastructure, which provides security at the expense of freedom. First of all, the internet is secure. No one is arguing against that. And really, for the most part, the only thing that is going to cause your data to be compromised is your own naivete, your own misuse, and freely giving your data out to people on the internet that you should not be giving your information to, right? These are hackers, scammers, and what have you. And so, yes, I mean, in general, the internet is safe for the most part when you are competent with the, with how you interact with the internet. And so, so basically, this isn't that's not the problem, right? So security isn't the problem. The problem is that this is a matter of principles. And if we look back, if we hearken back to the great heroes and leaders of the American Revolution, Patrick Henry was at the second, hold on. Yeah, I'm sorry. The Second Virginia Convention, which was held March 23rd, 1775, at St. John's Church in Richmond, Virginia. And he gave this speech without any written notes, and he just blew everyone away. So much so that his ending phraseology of his speech became the rallying cry of the American Revolution. And so in his speech, to greatly paraphrase, he likened the then current situation that the American colonies were experiencing with all its security, all its safety. They had the protection of the British Empire, and yet they didn't have what Henry argued was more valuable, freedom. And so even though they had protection, they wanted freedom. They were willing to die for what they saw as an opportunity to obtain true liberty and freedom, when the alternative, even though it was safe and secure, was really just a gilded cage that is a form of slavery. And that's essentially how he pitched his position: slavery or liberty, freedom. And so I know that a gilded cage is still a cage nonetheless. And so think about now modern internet infrastructure, Gmail, and what it offers to users. So end-to-end encryption means very specifically and explicitly that only the authorized parties have the keys. The senders and the receivers are the only ones that have the keys that allow them to access the information. And yet, on Gmail's free email service, the only time that data is encrypted is in transit on the transport layer. But as soon as it gets into a user's inbox, it's automatically decrypted and appears on Gmail servers, and they can access it and read it basically any time that they feel like they need to. And so there's no privacy there. The end-to-end encryption offered by Gmail is an executive, like exclusive paid service for companies that have like private um, communications going on. Okay, look at Facebook Messenger. I'm sure if you use Facebook Messenger, you've seen it'll have a little message that says this chat has been upgraded to end-to-end encryption. Well, again, it's actually not end-to-end encrypted because the definition of that means that only the authorized parties have the keys. Where's your key? You don't have it. It's somewhere in the code. You know, it's all being done for you. It's the gilded cage. Do you want the security of being in a gilded cage when you can uh, secure your own data? And so these are the sorts of questions and concerns that people need to be thinking about and that people will be thinking about more and more as time goes on, as people begin to really understand the modern internet and communication infrastructure and what it actually implies about being in a gilded cage. And, you know, I don't know what course others may take, but as for me, give me my own ability to secure my own data, or I'm just not going to use these platforms. You know, people need to uh, wake up and realize the stakes here because the the founders of this country were, uh, you know, they stood for something, and it's time to make a stand. Now let's talk about the Great Wave of Decentralization and how it is essentially necessarily pointing towards the decentralization of cryptography. As we know, cryptocurrency and Bitcoin is where this whole thing started, right? Uh, Decentralized finance is the source, but it's not where where decentralization is confined to. And in fact, decentralization has been since 2008, 09, it has been a wave that has been moving out into more and more sectors, progressively percolating into essentially any sector that you can name is now being touched and affected and changed by decentralization. Even government, energy, uh, real world assets, including land, um, going back to government and energy, these are like the core aspects of civilization. Okay, if decentralization is changing the way that governments are structured, for example, voting in India, they have already been running pilot or test runs of voting on the blockchain, which, as you know, is a publicly available ledger of transactions. And so, I mean, show me the mail-in ballots of the last election. They're nowhere, you know. We need transparency, and blockchain technology, decentralization offers that. And so it has been penetrating every sector. You know, gaming is obvious, but that's tertiary. That's not really the the most necessary core part of the market, but it's there nonetheless. And so again, any sector you can think of, decentralization is causing an evolution of markets. And but there's one sector that remains conspicuously absent, and that is cryptography itself, the base layer of decentralization, right? Cryptocurrency relies on cryptography, and uh, since modern internet infrastructure is highly centralized and the security relies on centralized cryptography, the natural conclusion is that cryptography will decentralize in the near future. Like it's the final boss, the last phase of the great decentralization wave. And we need to uh, start moving towards that, preparing ourselves and engaging with the future that's coming. And uh, in order to meet the needs of a changing future, in order to embrace rather than fight against and reject decentralization. Because, see, you have people that still think that Bitcoin is going to zero. You know, it's mind blowing that people don't understand. I mean, they say like Bitcoin isn't backed by anything, and yet the US dollar that used to be backed by gold with when you could literally go to the bank and exchange your money for physical gold, that ability was taken away, but still for decades, the dollar was backed by gold. Then they took that away. So now it's not backed by anything, and they just print it to infinity, which devalues the dollar. And so money itself is not backed by anything, but Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, these distributed ledger technology is the future, and there is value in it for anyone that has eyes to see and who has ears to hear. And the future is coming, whether you like it or not. So, the solution, matrix encryption, is the tip of the spear. In this video, we have talked a bit about what we call crypto ethics. This is obviously ethics applied to the cryptosphere. uh, and whether, no matter what time, what age, what era we're in, people are naturally inclined to gravitate, seek, and yearn and long for freedom, even at the uh, expense, or not the expense, but even with security that is a false security, because the true security is in the freedom to protect oneself. I mean, that quickly gets into the Second Amendment, right? But we we sort of framed the argument in terms of the founding of this country and how the gilded cage of security from outside across the seas without sufficient representation and influence was rejected by the leaders of the American Revolution. And now we are in a cryptographic revolution that can only lead towards the decentralization of cryptography. As sure as we're sitting here, cryptography will decentralize, and that is the final phase. If anyone was sitting there wondering, where is all of this uh, decentralization leading to? It's leading to total freedom, total anonymity. And in order to breach and break through the final phase of decentralization, we need to start embracing the decentralization of cryptography, and matrix encryption is there to is here. We are here to lead the way. We're the tip of the spear, and we are offering patented um, asymmetric core functions, symmetric key layer in combination with one out of 81 factorial codices that secure data and provide arbitrarily strong encryption, meaning that the brute force strength of our algorithm is as strong as you want it to be simply by increasing the size of the key. And uh, not only that, but we have recently obtained a non-deterministic form of the algorithm, and it's just incredibly strong in terms of brute force, but also strong in terms of structure. Like before there was a weakness in the structure where you could tell if the key and codex that were used to try to decrypt an encryption were wrong or not because the data would be too short. Now you have no idea and cannot tell how long the original data is supposed to be based on the length of the encryption. And this is a triple blind process where a third party has no idea how many characters were selected for the holographic map that applies ghost characters, these ghost terms, to the encoding layer. You don't know the contents of the message, and you don't know how the characters, of which you don't know how many were selected, you don't know how they were randomly applied to the ghost characters. And this is huge, again, in the context of crypto ethics and the Great Wave of Decentralization. Matrix encryption stands alone as a beacon and a light leading the way, leading the charge, charging uphill. This is a tough battle, but we are committed to victory and freedom for the people. You can learn more by watching our many other videos. We're trying to increase our productivity and put out videos, if not every day, hopefully every 2 or 3 days, but certainly you're going to notice more videos coming out. And please subscribe and spread the word and engage, because uh, we're going to help change the culture. And you can visit our website. You can email us at 777technologies.llc@gmail.com. And with that, this concludes the presentation. We look to see you again in the near future. Thank you and take care.